你好, Mr. Hong Bo-pei.
Hello.
Hello. My name's Yang. I'm a master's student here in Chicago studying.
你是什么地方来？中国什么地方？湖南
province.
湖南哪里？
长沙。
长山。我去过，这个很好一个地方。
Okay.
好
So
你可以问我用英文，不然的话，每个人
yeah, absolutely.
就会听不太懂。
I'm speaking English. All right. Well, in China, sometimes to be censored is to be remembered forever. And I believe there is certain bittersweet quality to your ambassadorship in Beijing when your Chinese name, Hong Bo-pei, was temporarily blocked on the search engine. And as I understand, as a US ambassador, when you cross the boundary of culture and polity, there is a trade-off or sometimes peril that the spirited debate will be given to, knowing others' position and then self-censor in order to avoid getting into trouble. So my question is, what was your personal feeling towards the censorship of your Chinese name? And what would be the proper protocol for US ambassadors to communicate with Chinese people given the existing censorship?
Well, China's a tough place for American diplomats because a lot of what we have to talk about, which are an extension of our nation's values, are not agreed with by the leadership in China. And I always knew that on one side of me, because I've been so steeped in China for my whole adult life, I have a daughter from China. And I think I understand the circumstances there, politically and otherwise, as well as any other American. I'm not an expert, but I don't know of a China expert anywhere. We're all specialists because it's too complicated a subject. And I knew I'd have to balance out my great respect and affection for China and my ability, my desire to communicate with people throughout China about what my country thinks and how we feel about Asia and China's role in the world, with my desire to have to talk about things like human rights. And I figured that at some point my name might be censored, blocked from the internet, and it was. And I don't feel badly about that. I think the people of China, and I've been back to China enough to know that I think most people thought that I balanced my job reasonably well. You can't be too much of this or too much of that. It is a balancing act, and I loved every minute of it. I don't know. I don't think my name is still censored. I hope not.
No, you'll remember.
谢谢你啊，
谢谢。
那你什么时候要回去
3月20号。
要做什么
Just visit my families, and then I'm gonna come back to Chicago.
什么工作
I don't have a job. I'm temporarily unemployed. I'll have my PhD here, so I'll be back.
我祝你很大的成功。
Thank you so
very
much.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have great English. Chinese.
Sir.
Thank you so much. So President has put forward two objectives for China. The first is Asia for the Asians, and the second is an effort to turn adversaries into partners. For example, President has called for a new regional cooperation structure that would suit Asia's unique traits and also the crisis control mechanism that would prevent some regional issues from flaring up. And also the One Belt, One Road strategy is part of the forging partnership plan. So my question is, how do these two objectives fit into or challenge the narrative of Thucydides' trap between the rising power, China, and the status quo power, the United States?
The Asia for the Asians statement by President was in a speech he gave in Shanghai a few years ago. Terrible paragraph. Absolutely terrible paragraph. And the interesting thing about the speech is, you admitted it, the very next paragraph essentially negated the Asia for the Asians paragraph. So here was a question of people contributing language for his speech in which they borrowed the language of Asia for the Asians, but they also included the language that was contrary to that, because the next paragraph says, but Asia is open to everybody and we welcome the cooperation of everybody in Asia. Well, is that Asia for the Asians? Read the speech. The two paragraphs are contradictory with each other. So therefore, I don't attach much significance to the Asia for the Asians paragraph. I think it's a self-defeating policy. Do we want America for the Americans, or we're going to exclude China from it? Do we want Europe for the Europeans, etc.? I mean, it's a foolish concept. Doesn't mean some people don't hold it. It just means it's not a good idea. What about the other areas of it? I think the Chinese programs, which are designed to improve cooperation with its neighbors, and particularly in areas such as infrastructure development. For example, I thought the creation of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank was a very good idea. I've never seen a bigger mistake than by the Obama administration in being hostile to that concept. They didn't get any support anywhere, even including within the United States, on opposing that. I think the One Belt, One Road is an interesting concept. I would like to see the Americans take an interest in it and hopefully become part of it. I think that anything that improves connectivity among the various countries in East Asia, South Asia, Central Asia, Near East, and all the way to Europe is a good thing if it is used for productive cooperation and is not used for military aggression or other undesirable behavior patterns.
Hello. Hello, Ambassador.
Yang Xiang, sorry about
Yang
that.
Xiang, Yang Xiang. So I was confused
Yes.
about the name. So my name is Yang. I'm a third-year PhD student in U Chicago. I'm from China. In many people's eyes, Americans have established a habit of struggling in favor of human rights and being outspoken on human rights issues when other countries are more quiet. One of the reasons, interestingly raised by former U.S. Ambassador to China, Stapleton Roy, he came here 2 years ago, is that because of the inequities and many human rights problems built into U.S. own society, such as its racial past. So, at the risk of sounding too Freudian, how does this ongoing riots in the wake of the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis and the lack of national leadership affect U.S. foreign policy in upholding human rights in the future, for example, with respect to communicating these issues with China?
Well, the point I try to make is that in the United States, we support people's right to speak and to assemble and to demonstrate. The distinction we make is violence, destruction, burning buildings, looting. That's not right, it's not appropriate, and needs to be prevented. And that's true whether it happens in Hong Kong or it happens in the United States. Now in China, people don't dare take those kind of actions in mainland China because they know how strict enforcement is, and that with all the surveillance and everything, they will be arrested and probably not be seen for a long period of time. The United States, with the rule of law that we have and with procedural due process, that's not supposed to be the case. And that's why people feel so strongly about what happened to George Floyd and how wrong that is and how committed we are to seeing that justice is brought in that case.
We've seen a trade war with China, U.S.'s #1 trading partner, as well as its potential #1 strategic rival. As a student coming from China, I'm deeply concerned with the escalating trade dispute spilling over into technology and perhaps into many other domains. Are the two sides playing the art of the deal or the art of the bluff? Will the world see another Cold War or a Cold Peace, or perhaps deeper cooperation and integration